Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's okay. Hope everyone's good. And yeah, it was good to catch everyone that was there, I suppose, at the cuddle. Always an enjoyable weekend. Drive home on a Sunday's never very good. And before we jump into everything else, I'm actually going to talk about a stupid thing I did on Sunday morning, which didn't put me in the best position, kind of leaving me a little bit in a negative position right now. And obviously we'd all had fun at the cuddle, and I'd kind of woken up, knew I needed to drive back. And for those of you that were aware, I was slightly out of tower waiting a sidestep. And funnily enough, when I turned my phone on, it hit where I wanted to buy back in. It was like 490, 488 or something. Because I was in a hurry, hungover, and wanting to go, I don't know what came over me, but I just hit sell. So I'd bought it all back, but then for some reason my mind just went to, I needed to do something, and I went to sell, and I got in the car and I drove, and by the time I got there, I was in the wrong place. Now, thankfully, obviously, I didn't sell it all. I just sell a small amount. I just don't know what on earth my mind was thinking at. So I've kind of left myself in a little bit of an awkward position at the moment because I haven't got back in. I've got out around about 490, 495. Price is nowhere near that. We'll have a look at things a little bit later on, but I just wanted to start this one off with, guys, don't be like Harry here. Don't trade whilst hungover. Don't trade while drunk, definitely. Certainly don't trade while hungover. Don't trade on your mobile if you're in a hurry. All of those kind of things that I just took for granted and did anyway. So lesson learned there. Risks have been slapped. Fear is consuming me. No, it's not quite that bad. But I am watching the charts and I'm kind of waiting. I haven't bought back in. We'll go over tower a little bit later on. But let's just leave that Gypsy's warning where it is. Hope everyone is good. If you have any questions as we're going through things, feel free to drop them in. I'm going to try and keep this one short and sweet. There's going to probably be quite a long trading pub on Thursday. And, you know, we've obviously all had a bit of a catch up this weekend. But let's dive in. And of course, as the headline said, 100K has been cancelled. And we got pretty darn close on Friday. Was it Friday? I think it was Friday. It might have been Thursday. Yeah, Friday. Pretty darn close. Now, people have been telling me over the weekend that we actually hit 100K. I can't find anywhere or any exchange that actually suggests that we did hit 100K. So if anyone thinks that they've seen it, take a screenshot and send it to me. But I've kind of got a couple up on the screen at the moment: Bitstamp, Binance, Coinbase, the BLX, and also just a general index. You can kind of see prices ranging anywhere from about 99,800 to about 99,500, depending on the exchange. So sadly, we didn't quite get it there. I thought there was going to be something incredibly poetic about us all meeting on Saturday and it hitting that 100K. Luckily, Siam's going to get his money back for the indoor fireworks that he was going to set off had that happened, but unfortunately it didn't. So we all missed a little treat there. And what's happened since then? Well, we have had a pullback, and a lot of people are pretty worried about this one. The reality of it is a pullback of pretty much 9% and counting, I suppose. But we've had a hell of a long of a run up, and we are going to go through Bitcoin as we always do later on. But let's just put everything into context. Trump election, 65,000. 3 weeks later, just under 100K, and it's kind of less than 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So we have moved an incredible amount in a short space of time. If it wasn't just Bitcoin, hopiism, and everything else that goes with it, we'd all have been screaming for a slight pullback. And we're getting that pullback now. So let's have a look at where that's going. Does it really mean that the bears are taking over? Does it really mean that this is the local top? Reality is we don't actually know. We have our theories, and we can go over those with TA a little bit later on. But my personal opinion is that this isn't the end. This is only the beginning, and we are just seeing a natural pullback. Matter of fact, it may not even be that natural. Let's face it, that wasn't particularly a natural pump up 35, 40, 50% or whatever it was during that period. And this is just sort of some sort of correction. And the steeper you go up, generally the steeper you come back down. But, you know, again, if we fall down steeply, we'll probably recover steeply as well. We're going to have a look at all of those things a little bit later on. I'm not going to lie to you, Casper, it may be losing its place on this chart right now because it really isn't doing much. You probably can't see. Of all of the altcoins that we follow, this one's probably been the most worrying. we lost the trend line. We bounced back up to it last week. We've fallen out of it again. And actually, a lot of coins pumped quite well last week. And I don't think Casper did as well as others. So something to certainly keep an eye on. Crypto total market cap. Now, we just tipped under $1 trillion. There has been a little bit of a pullback. But to be fair, you've always got to be fair. That 800 billion level, you can probably go down to about 775. Pretty good level of support there. And again, the steepness of the climb up that we've seen only sort of serves to suggest that actually we're going to find some sort of altcoins. Now, my only concern actually as we go through later on would be if we now see a sudden sharp turnaround from BTC, is then that going to reflect over to the altcoins, or altcoins going to bleed as BTC takes off again? We'll cover dominance later on, but it is falling, but kind of going towards some support levels, something to look at. And then we've got BitTensor. Now, BitTensor is kind of doing its own thing. And again, we'll go into it in a bit more detail later on. But we've had sort of that correction from 700, kind of looking a little bit like a double bottom here. I probably would have preferred this wick to come down a little bit further, but it hasn't. And we're starting to form. Now, it's on the 3-day time frame, and I'm fairly optimistic at the moment. What I would say, though, is someone said, we're in a reversal. I just want us to close. We've got 2 days to do it above, let's say, 560. Let's get this candle here up to there. So then we have that 1, 2, 3, 4. I know it looks like a 5, but it is a 3. They look more like a 5 now. So that's what I'd like to see there. But yeah, so far, I mean, today, if we do drop onto the day, today's candle, actually, last 3 or 4 days have been incredibly wicked. They're kind of falling in the middle. Bit of a topping pattern there. I've heard people in Discord, read people in Discord, should I say, talking about a lot of fundamentals that may be helping to pop up the price whilst the others is going. But the reality is that although TAL didn't move as much as other altcoins last week, it is holding its own a lot better than other altcoins have done. Probably just because they weren't as overextended as some of these other ones were. I've seen some of the questions already. Hello to everyone there. I will cover the Pi cycle a little bit later on. And apparently the CME got to 100K. Did it? Let's have a look. Oh, it did. It did. I mean, it is notoriously always higher. But you're right, it did. Not an exchange, though. So I'm not going to necessarily, not a crypto exchange, I should add. So I'm not going to celebrate it. I don't think the industry is counting it as 100K yet. Trust me, if we did 100K, the rockets were gone. But you are right, Mark. It has. This one did tip it just by a little bit. So there we go. That's what people were talking about. Thank you. I mean, again, now at the moment it's at 92,680, whereas BTC is like 1,000 below that. So as I say, it does notoriously be just ever so slightly higher. But okay, you are correct. Thank you for that. Let's just get on with some news. And we should have known we were due a correction because, well, it was not Saylor because he doesn't do it anymore, but MicroStrategy under Saylor's guidance gave us the local top once again by buying 55,000 Bitcoin for a small $5.4 billion. They are now just under 390,000 BTC. So we know historically, whenever Saylor publicizes about it, it is a local top. And these corrections quite quickly get brought back up. So nothing necessarily to worry about there, but he has gone and done it. And he is, I got this chart up, one of the only people in the world at the moment that has bought Bitcoin and is not profitable. Because if you had bought Bitcoin any time in its history up until 4 days ago, you would have been in profit. However, now we're dipping back down. So it's quite a nice chart to look at. You can go into Bitcoin Pro magazine, have a look at this. It's just Bitcoin profitable days. So obviously it's just taking the average price or the price of every Bitcoin that's ever been bought versus the price it is now to see where it is. And we've got the number of profitable days holding Bitcoins, 5,209. That is a number we have never really seen before because the total number is 5,215. But you've got to think that every bull market we get this, but it's when we get out of the bull market that we start to get these profitable days. So 99.9% of all Bitcoin holders, or days, so technically holders, are in profit. But yeah, if we just zoom in, we can just see this little bit of red just correcting back down. But yeah, that's where it is. So, I appreciate we have pulled back by 10% or so, but is it anything really to worry about too much? Mr. Saylor doesn't think so. He's never going to think so, to be fair. He'll be buying at 250,000 Bitcoin and fighting the US for those. But here was the announcement that they made yesterday, that they bought them over the weekend. And we kind of knew that they were going to do that with how they were going to convert stuff. We're going to talk about MicroStrategy a little bit later on. So I won't delve into this one too much. And then Bitcoin 92K price correction triggered, not actually by the ETFs, as some people were suggesting yesterday, a little bit of a red day in the ETFs, but actually by long-term holders. Now, this is worrying. If you're a person that believes in on-chain data, you know, on long-term holders, typically smart money. What are smart money doing? They're doing the correct thing. And this is suggesting that smart money is taking profit, whereas dumb money, I'm not saying Mr. Saylor's dumb by any sense of the means, but general retail, dumb money, moving in, getting excited and exuberated around about that 100K level. So let's have a look. This is the chart in question. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can. What we're kind of looking at is that we've got the red and the green line, which is translating across, which is the long-term holders position. So if it's green, they're accumulating. If it's red, they're starting to sell. And then we've got the ETFs, which are the blue blocks. What they're kind of suggesting here is the depth and the steepness of the red line is outpacing the inflows from the ETF. So actually, it isn't the fact that the ETFs have sold off a little bit. It's more actually the long-term holders. Now, how they're defining long-term holders, I can't remember through the article, but typically we're looking at like plus 1 year. ETFs have not been around for a year, so we know they're not counted in that metric. So yeah, definitely something to have in mind. And that red day that everybody is talking about is the one that happened yesterday. It was $435 million worth of net sales for BTC yesterday. But of course, the canary in the coal mine has just not given up, and BlackRock is still buying. We don't know how they've done today, but they're continuing to buy. Everyone else is a little bit of, don't know what the term I was looking for there, but you know, wishy-washy. That's not what I was looking for, but it's what's stuck in my head. They buy, they sell, they buy, they sell. BlackRock basically just buy. So they're still buying. So I think the fact that they're still buying, Saylor's still buying, we're still in a positive trend for Bitcoin. Now, both of those are going to be lagging datas. I get it, but that's kind of where I'm going there. So yesterday was a bit of a bad day, but to be fair, look at the totals over these last 3 weeks, yeah? We've had 3 red days, right? And in those 3 red days, only 2 days, so how can I put that? Of the ever remaining 13 days that are on the chart, only 2 of them were less the opposite way. What I'm trying to say is 370 was the net outflow, the smallest amount. When we look at the smallest amount, we've got 254 inflows, 293 inflows. So the inflows over the last 3 weeks far outweigh the outflows. And of course, you know, we hit Friday, 99,000. It's ETF, institutional money, probably put the sell orders into the brokers, close for the weekend, come back Monday, people are selling. You get it. But BlackRock ain't. So we're still in a pretty good place. Now, any of you into the meme coins here, and you'd bought that meme coin of Wrap BTC, flash crashed to $5,000 on Binance of all places a couple of days ago. Now, it didn't last for long. But when people talk about we were going down to 8K, you know, to be fair to God, I can't Capo. That was it. Him. He's right. We have. I mean, I know it's wrapped Bitcoin, but it's supposed to represent the price of Bitcoin, flashing down to 5,200. We've hit the 12,000 that he was expecting. Was it 8,000? I can't remember. Now it was went flash crashed down and recovered within a minute. I don't know if any orders are actually filled. And you know what? This isn't the first time that Binance and Coinbase and the like have been accused of this kind of thing. They're saying it was a computer glitch that ultimately caused it. We will have to wait and see. But this is it here. This is the actual chart. And I've had to zoom out pretty far for us to actually have a look at that. But yeah, all the way down. And I tell you what, I don't know if I got it. This was it. Yeah, this is it on the minute chart. This is kind of hard to see. There's really thin lines here of the 1 minute bars. And then this is the crash down. I was trying to see if it lasted longer than a minute. It didn't. So orders could have been filled. Obviously, it didn't take that long. However, if you did buy the bottom, when it recovered, it was a 1.8 million. Is that right? Oh no, sorry. A 1,000. It does look like a million, but it's 1,700% increase, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, something definitely to think about. Now, this article goes on to talk about the fact that could it have come because Coinbase have made an announcement that they're going to stop selling or suspend trading of wrapped BTC, and they're doing that because they're bringing out their own wrapped BTC, CB BTC. So they don't want any competition. And then people are up in arms about Coinbase doing that. I say go for it, because you know what? It ain't real BTC. Whatever prefix you want to put in front of it, whether it's wrapped, whether it's Coinbase, whether it's Binance or Kraken BTC, or whatever it's going to be, I ain't buying it, so it doesn't necessarily matter. The argument obviously here being that, I mean, especially with Coinbase being the custodians for a lot of the ETFs, are they kind of running out of Bitcoin? Have they already been selling paper Bitcoin, and now they're just trying to come up with their own Bitcoin to help fill those orders, to convince retail to leave the precious actually Bitcoin alone so they can, you know, allocate that to one side for the ETFs? I don't know. I'm making that up there. Could be totally untrue. Regardless, I never really have ever touched wrapped BTC, and I don't necessarily intend to. But there, and that's the risks of it, I suppose. Something that people have been talking about a lot, and especially with the whole meme coins picking up, is pump.fun. So for those who aren't aware what pump.fun is, I should have got the website up. I will do. Pump.fun is, I put fan, that's not going to work. So this is it. Okay. Now, I've never used it, never been on it before. I've just typed it in. But it's a place in which you can not only create your own meme coins, but you can also buy meme coins that people have created. And it's just, yeah, another way of doing that. However, it used to have, until very recently, a live broadcast feature, a live stream feature from it. But that has been shut down. And because classic, you know, you give Joe Public something without any kind of control as to what they can live stream, and all sorts of degenerates come on board. So we had one person who tried to commit suicide. We've had people that are killing animals, others that are assaulting people, and all sorts of things. And so the platform and the team behind the platform have had to suspend, probably never to be brought back, the live stream feature within that. And it's now kind of saying that, look, this could actually cause civil and criminal lawsuits. Why do I say that? Well, depending on what the lawsuits are and who they're against, could PumpFun even last that long? I don't know. But this whole let's create as many meme coins as we can, get them out in the market, hoping one of them could. The industry may lose one of the easiest ways to go about doing that. So I know we're all getting a little bit excited about meme coins, and hell, why not? People even talking about creating their own. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's closing tomorrow, but if you're not fully aware of what PumpFun is, some of the problems that they are having outside of just the creation of meme coins, it's just have a look into it. Obviously, you're connecting your wallets to this, so it shouldn't be, even if it does get shut down, you shouldn't necessarily lose it, but it could massively drive interest in meme coin trading. So anything that you have created could just lose value overnight. So just bear that one in mind. And then the final thing that I just want to necessarily touch on was announced today, and it's the UK. The UK and the FCA have put a line in the sand and said by 2026 they are going to fully regulate cryptocurrency. And I tell you what, if that is achieved in the next 13 months, I will be amazed. Now, part of me really wants them to regulate it, because I'm kind of sick and tired at the moment of having to walk on eggshells when we talk about cryptocurrency and get, you know, people looking down their noses at you and all of that. Let's bring some legitimacy towards it. But at the same time, there's so much that they've got to achieve. Red tape, and this isn't a Labour government kind of thing. This could be any government, just not very good at sort of driving these things forward. So I just don't think that is too long a time, unless they've significantly been working on this behind the scenes, or they're just going to go and steal someone else's roadmap. It kind of feels that this is going to be very difficult to achieve. Now, there's some data that has come out to say that actually over 12% of all adults own some sort of cryptocurrency, which is up over the last 12 months. The average value, they say, is $2,300 dollars worth. So given how much I know some of you guys earn, it must mean that most UK adults own about $10 worth of BTC. But this is the roadmap that they put forward. I have not really interrogated it too much, but just the point we're trying to get here is by Q4 2025, Q1 2026, all trading platforms, intermediation, lending, and staking will have some sort of framework that is in place so that they can then finalize all the rules and go ahead in 2026. It just feels like such a jump from where we are. However, what a great excuse to start a bear market in 2026 when everyone in retail decides that they don't want to be part of this thing because they're worried about what the rules are when they come out. Hey, we'll see. We'll mark this one in the diaries and see how it turns about. But yeah, something to go through there. Okay, no more questions. I will take a look at the price cycle, don't worry. But let's get into BTC. So here we are, and I was hoping that the Avenger curse would crack. If I thought, right, if I create a thumbnail like that, it's going to, and put it out there, the law of averages on these calls are going to blow that out of the water, and we'll be at 115,000 before we even start. But unfortunately, the exact opposite is happening, really. And Bitcoin really is struggling to maintain its price. I should have deleted this because that's old, and I didn't check where the new liquidation levels are. So you'll have to bear with me on those ones here. But the old classic chart, not necessarily a mess as such at the moment, but that price action that we saw, this is on the 12-hour chart at the moment. So Wednesday afternoon, when we sort of hit this trend line for the second time, we broke through it, we retested it twice, and then we've lost it again. So there's something in and around that trend line. As for the Fibonacci's, not too much necessarily to go on at the moment. You could argue that we were reacting on these two little pumps up, the 618 or the 1.618. So fair enough. But now we're falling back into this body of action here. And what is interesting is that the base of this price, 87,000, ties in with the fib of the 1.414 and also the top of sort of like, this area of liquidity. So I think there's a real chance that we actually could see price climb, have climbed up as it is, but fall back down to here, have some sort of, either stabilizing effect or V reversal reaction from this, and then come back up. Again, though, before we even get to the 100K level, we've got that blue trend line that we've got to consider, not to mention the 1.618 to get through. So they're sort of like, without even redrawing any of this, without going into smaller timeframes at the moment, big picture, 87,000 really is kind of a realistic level that I would be looking for if I was sticking on the 12-hour, the daily, to maybe try and get some cheeky sort of plays in. There are further areas that it could fall, but let's just try not to get too worried about things at the moment and just focus in and around that level there. Let's drop it down onto lower time. Well, actually, what have we got here? 12-hour, isn't it? Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's just, again, keep it big picture. This is on the, we'll leave it on the 12-hour. I don't know if, let's have a look what we got here. So we got previous market top, 69,000. We've kind of got, I know we got to 72 and we got down, but we kind of got quite a bit of noise in and around here. And I'm also looking, when we broke through, we retest and we bounce back up. So that's sort of 69,000 level, somewhere to look at. I know you're not going to like me putting these other levels on, but I'm just trying to look at sort of big price action levels. 50,000, obviously there's the sort of the emotional level at 50,000. We got the drop down within this period over the summer. We had that as the shoulder on the climb back up end of February, and then all the price action in and around the previous bull market. Don't think you can necessarily ignore it. I'd hate for it to go any lower than that, but I'm just wondering, this is probably the next level I'd look at, 38,000. Let's leave that there. We don't want to get too depressed looking too far down. Now, if we do draw a fib from the top down to the bottom, tell you what, ignore the golden ones at the moment, although the 618 at 39,000 is looking at, by the way, don't think I've lost my rocker here. I'm thinking bear market because they're not what I'm looking at. But that is kind of giving me some legitimacy, at least of the fib levels that I have drawn. And when you add in the 0.5 at 32 and see all of those things that interact with it, maybe we can just give some of these other levels a little bit of credence. And the reason I mention that is because, you know, this retest, this all-time high, far, you know, that takes us back to still above where we were at the election, but, you know, a steep recovery of that. Now, that is pretty dire news to get back down there. So I don't think that's an easy fall down. But the reality of it is, and I'm sorry if this is scaring people right now, I'm going to get positive in a minute, but look how fast we went up. So for people to then say to me, oh, it's, you know, we can't get it down that fast, that quickly, it's just not possible. I'm sorry, but what goes up can still come back down. So I don't think we can ignore it. We may not like it, but I don't think we can necessarily ignore it. Right, that's sort of, for me, is the Gandalf line, okay? That's 70K, 69,000 Gandalf line. Maybe we get back down there. It ain't going to be pretty. Members of the party are gone. But if we break that one, the fellowship's over, guys, girls. And yeah, no more trip to Mordor. I'll stop with the Lord of the Rings analogy. I don't know where I was going with that. Let's get rid of that. Let's zoom in. Let's talk about something that might be a little bit easier to ascertain. So let's get this going. And again, I haven't done much sort of charting and prep prior to this because I just wanted to kind of give you my initial reaction as I'm seeing it. So I'm just thinking now, let's have a look at a fib level from this bottom, which is kind of the week of the election, to the top. And where do we see things? Because now we are starting to draw some of these in. And normally I do this with the EMA charts as well. I want to overlay them a little bit later, not to make it too confusing. And that 90,000 is still a level now. So, you know, worst case scenario, we were talking about 70. Let's hope we never get there. Then we talked about that 86 level because it was the base of these down here. But we're starting to just build in some extra levels at the moment. Because right now we're in free fall. And it's not huge free fall, but the reality is over the last few days, it is 8-9%. We need something to catch us. I like using fibs to just see if there's an area we can have a look at. 90,000, it's not the best fib level of 236. So 90,000, we can kind of see actually is the top side of this sort of range. It was a range. It was a couple of days that we stayed in and around there. Maybe we get that. You know, we get lucky. Then we can start having a look at some of these fibs. That 85 is a more refined view now of that a 3-day time frame we were looking at with the 86. And if you do remember going back into this one, it was 84.5 to 86.5. So that kind of takes us within the middle of that liquidation area in there. 81. I mean, yeah, okay. Some of the other ones we can have a look at. 618, you know, is one that I'm interested in. But right now, I just want to focus on these two. The 90, in fact, which we may even hit during this call, to be perfectly frank. And then the 85 are the two that I'm really looking on a smaller time frame to try and get some sort of reality and look through from it. Why don't we just talk about Pi Cycle now? And then we'll overlay the EMAs when we get to it there, because otherwise I'm going to move on. Let's find a Pi Cycle top indicator. Okay. It's just loading. Can I ask, I'm just trying to find it, right? What is it? Have you heard of the Pi Cycle? Have you seen it? Is there anything that any reason why you want the Pi Cycle on the chart? I will talk about it. I just want to make sure that I don't miss it. Why is it actually not showing anything? Am I being thick here? There we go. Oh, I know why. I need a different Pi Cycle. This one just tells you the tops, but we want... That's the one I got, isn't it? Okay. Right. So, whilst that's been typed, Ibrahim's still here. So for those that aren't aware what the Pi Cycle is, it was created by a gentleman called Peter Swift, I think it is, in 2019. And it is taking a couple of EMAs. That's all it is. So it takes 111 EMA and the 350 EMA, which is times by 2. And you can see These are sort of the lines that represent here. And what they're looking for, what it suggests happens. Okay, that's it. Fine. What it suggests that it happens, and don't be on the weekly, we want to be on the daily now that we've got it, is that as those two cross, it indicates the market top plus or minus 3 days. Now, he created in 2019 and everyone talked about it because it hit every single market cycle within plus or minus 3 days, the top of. But that was retrospectively done against, because we'd already had the 3 market tops in 2017 and before. So whilst it got a lot of people's attention, it wasn't actually until April of 2021 where it did it again. And I can't remember the date now, the 11th of April, whenever the market top was, we had a cross. So once again, it showed us where the market top was. People got excited from it. But funnily enough, it didn't point out the top in November of 2021. So whether or not it's broken, we'll have to wait and see. I definitely think it's something that it's a free indicator. So, just have on your charts to just have a look. But what we can see at the moment is the green line, which is the fast line, 111. And then we've got the 355. I think it's 355. I should just go on and check. But we can kind of see at the moment that we're not actually close right now. So the gap between them is quite large. But what I will say is this is going to get very steep very quickly, because obviously the move that we've had isn't really reflected within this at the moment. So that's going to move relatively quickly, and that's going to squeeze those up. But what you can actually see, so, look, and going back and just looking at previous data is not the most scientific, the distance between the previous is not the most scientific, but can you just get a feel for sort of like, we have these periods where it squeezes together, reopens, and then it goes up. So this was the last cycle, okay? So it squeezed together with this mid-cycle run up to 14K, got close, we had the rejection, opened up quite nicely, squeezed together, and then look, it takes significantly steep movement to actually get these two to cross. Well, we have had the squeeze, it's come together, we've opened back up again, and we're starting to go. Now, I'm not suggesting by any means that this is going to, be exactly right, because, where do you take it from? But let's just take it from the beginning of that to the top is 271 days. So that potentially is saying it's going to take us to end of the summer next year to get to it. But more importantly, it's how high does this go while those are happening? I don't know. We so many factors are in the way between now and then, because we could range for a while, which would allow the data to catch up. We could fly up ahead of time and totally ruin this day here. So there's nothing you can necessarily take from what I've just said, except for the fact that that gap will take a significant amount of time to cross. So if this is going to be another true indicator, we've definitely got time on our hands. This won't be crossing for months. So I lost my train of thought because I caught something in chat there. So you only probably need to check this. I mean, I'd suggest at the moment once a month, maybe not even that, once every 2 months. You're not going to get that. But I guarantee you, when it starts getting close, this is all people are going to talk about. And it could be right. I put it this way. If it crosses and we're at an all-time high and there's a lot of euphoria in there, I will kick myself. I was going to say something else. If I don't do anything and then it turns out to be the top. Because I remember saying, if it does something here, I'm going to do it. And then it hit here and I was like, we're off to 100K. I won't bother doing anything. We came back down. I didn't get out for another 15 grand or whatever. So, yeah, we shall see. Now, you could argue that, well, if you missed that, you only had to wait 6 months and you had a new all-time high anyway. So that's fine if you're a hodler and it repeats that pattern. We don't have too many data points for it to go on. It's a bit like a lot of TA or on-chain TA and all that kind of stuff. It's difficult. And let me give you another prime example of that. Do you remember how often people talked about coin days destroyed? I wasn't looking for this. I just came across this today when I was looking for the Bitcoin profitable days. But do you remember what everyone was saying is that, when we get to these sort of spike levels up here previously, it's always marked the local top within the price. And then it's just bear market from then on. Well, look what happened here. Everyone called it the first time. And we talked about it on the channel because everyone was talking about it and asking about it. and it dropped back down. Price kind of stayed stable. It went even higher. Price kind of stayed stable. The coin destroyed days fell away completely, but we're actually at all-time highs at 99,000. So sometimes, you know, things happen. They work out for a couple of cycles in a row, but then they fall apart. And that unfortunately is just something we are going to have to deal with as crypto enthusiasts, trading enthusiasts, until we get a decent amount of data. And sadly, you know, 12, 13 years worth of data is not necessarily enough, particularly on-chain data, which is slow to sort of give any information anyway, and difficult to interpret, and it does require a level of interpretation. So that means that, you know, things can be slightly off and totally skew. I've not looked into what's caused this massive drop-off, etc., but it's all about, if you remember coin days, just being sort of like how long Bitcoin has been held for, gives it a value, and then when it's sold or moved, it has that value is then destroyed. And so we don't know why these have been moved. They might not have even been sold, or it could just be a significant amount of trading. But with long-term holders selling, which we have seen that data, this is perhaps right, you know, because they would have carried a large amount of coin days destroyed that has now been lost. But ultimately, oops, sorry there, as this price sort of has gone up, you know, where does that leave us with the theory that as this peaks, we then see the drop? It could still be a precursor for a market collapsing, because we're talking about smart money here, or alleged smart money. But this particular narrative, I don't think it's carrying it anymore. And funnily enough, people aren't talking about it. So yeah, we'll leave that one there. Someone else just gone and asked, if you have time, please can you briefly cover which points to go to and from when using a fib tool? Okay, I mean, it's total personal preference. So let me just get rid of these, because all I say is just be consistent. So you know, whether or not you're looking for bodies or wicks, just whatever you do, just stick to it. So I like to go for body to body. So, you know, line it up there and line it to there. Why do I say stick to it? Because you've got some level of consistency. If I keep the top of the body here, but I move down to the wick, everything just sort of doesn't quite align. So I try and keep that consistent. One other thing I would say is also just keep consistent, whether or not you want it in the logarithmic or the linear, because again, they can be massively different. So let me just show you an example. So we're on the logarithmic at the moment. I'm not going to touch the scale. When I hit linear, perfect example, it did slightly move. On more extreme ones, it's quite wild. Let's try and take a figure that we're going to know, 63,505. Put it onto there, and it goes down to 61,329. So they do move. So yeah, again, there's no right or wrong, as long as you do if what you're doing, particularly, you know, if you're trying to do some TA and looking at past occurrences or what have you, just try and keep it consistent. Now, in terms of where I take it, I'm looking from sort of swing lows to swing highs, or from swing high down to swing lows. So in this instance, this is probably quite a good example, because you're like, well, where do I really take it from? Because if you were a wick guy, you could start down here and go, well, this is the low, and take it up to the top. And I get that, absolutely. For me though, I'm just like, oh, well, actually, it climbs back up and then it makes another low here. And so that doesn't feel like the end of the lows. So for the actual move to like this trending move to finish, I want to find the final low within it, which to me is here. I found that, and then I take that move up. I wouldn't necessarily argue if you wanted to take it from down that wick there and do wick to wick, because that's the low of this entire period, the low of that move. I couldn't see any fault with that. And again, actually, you know what? It kind of lines up quite nicely. You know, you can kind of see we had that move up here, punch back down, definitely some sort of support. We've lost it, it's recovered, and we bounced up it, bounced up it, bounced up it, wick back down. Obviously, we bounced off that one because it's the top one. So, but for me, I just kind of aim for it there. Again, if I was trying to do it the other way, just actually delete it. Let's try and find this move from high to low. I'd be like, okay, where's the high? It's up here. What am I looking for? If I'm looking for the short term, it's down here, because I just take it. Let me zoom in. Sorry if it's teaching a lot of other people to suck eggs, but if anyone wants to know, then it's a good question to ask. So again, you know, right, initially, swing low, and then I can see what the move was. But we've actually seen all of this move, so that feels a bit false. Had we have done, this, and we were like, oh, what's Bitcoin doing? I'll be like, right, well, that's the move at the moment because we've got a low in, we've got a peak. Let's see if there's any interaction. And in this one there was, and it bounced off it. So you can say, okay, fair enough. Let's end that. However, we've known what this is. Again, just if you're a body or a swing guy, I'd take it down to, that's a swing high. This was the low of it. I mean, they're almost on top of each other. And then you can kind of see the move play out. And again, we can expand this out to the right. And you can kind of see, look, I've done it from here. I just want to emphasize this. From there down to here. Okay, they're the two levels that I've done the fib from. But look, beautifully hit 618 price action there. But also, I didn't draw this. Sorry, I drew it, but I didn't do the expansion. Look at the two. Absolutely where it hit on the body for recovery. So again, another good relay to lay it down through. So I hope that helps. I mean, I don't know. I really like fibs. I know some people don't. When I'm looking at wider time frames, I just think they're useful to find me a level. Whether or not, I don't really tell people, look, 88,263 is the level, but it just gives me an idea of some sort of level that's going to be drawn towards it. You can drop onto lower time frames and have a look at other things to kind of do that. But when I tie in fibs with EMAs, I think for me anyway, it gives a very good picture of what I'm looking at. So, right. Anyway, I'm glad that helped. Fear and greed. We were in the 90s last week. We're down at 79 at the moment. So not the worst place to be in. We want to see some areas of cooling off. I've left this just on the 7 day or whatever it is at the moment. We got to 94 was the peak a couple of days ago. But, we put this on max. We want to have these pullbacks. And I'm not saying we're drawing lines here, but pullbacks are absolutely fine. Even now that we're at this level, just even dropping down sort of 15 on the fear and greed, we're still in extreme greed. Perhaps we can see it get cooled off below 74 or 75, getting into 74, and see that maybe just sort of building some here and then bouncing from it. What we just need right now is just, for me, what I would like to see is Bitcoin to find a level and then just build a bit of stability before we move on. If we bounce quite aggressively from this position, the fear and greed is just going to go flying straight back up. We're going to get back into the sort of low to high 90s, and that's likely going to create more volatility with sharp moves back down as people just get scared of where we're at. Whereas if we can just find that period of ranging, it's going to be perfect. I mean, look at this. It's hard to see. Let's do it on the year. We've got from March all the way to November. So we went, this whole time period, we were able to get from 90 down to like the low 70s or the high teens and back up again. We actually only ranged about $20,000 within that. So, $20,000 range from where we are at the moment is we're talking about 100K to 80K. If we can do that, but really start to reset, hopefully over a short time period, but really start to reset that fear and greed index, it's going to give us a much more stable position to push on through. And also, the longer we get to just sort of halter at these kind of levels, building that support, the longer the bear market's likely to last for. I mean, if you remember when we were back in the early part of 2024, people were talking about left-leaning transitioning cycles, weren't they? But then we had 9 months of holding around between 70 and 50K. Nobody's really worried about it peaking in December 2024. Could still do it, but no one's necessarily worried about that at the moment. So that's kind of where we are with BTC. Adam's just put, I read somewhere, can't remember where, that we need the fear and greed to remain high, above 90 for a sustained period of time for retail return. What are your thoughts on that? I think that makes sense, but I go back to something that was talked about in the cuddle, and if it wasn't, it must have been talked about in Discord. We was talking about, let's use Cardano as the example. In fact, let's actually not do that. Let's get it on a chart. And you'll be surprised, this 2021 and 2017 were exactly the same. So don't necessarily worry about it too much, but let's get rid of that. It's how long I've been, of course I don't have 2017 on this one. Sorry, let me find another one. Kraken. Let's try that. Should have been around for longer. It wasn't. Right. Poloniex. Come on. I'm trying to find an old school one that ADA would have been listed on. Okay. This is madness. Right. Anyway, doesn't necessarily matter. But the point I'm trying to make is that when we got into the bull market, yeah, and look at what Cardano did at the end. You know, it went from $1.20 to $3. It's on the weekly time frame. It did it in 6 weeks because retail flooded in. And the point is, it 3x'd, which doesn't sound like a lot. But retail were able to push that price up, and it was just fever pitch with ADA in such a short period of time. So you're right. At the end of the bull market, the fear and greed index may not drop below 94 or 90s or wherever. It's certainly extreme greed. We wanted to keep it in plus 75. But it doesn't even have to stay in there for that long a period, because these, I can't remember how it was explained with the ADA one. But ultimately, what you find with a lot of altcoins is, the last few weeks of the bull run, the last 20% of the time, whatever you want to call it, 80% of the price move generally occurs within that period. And I think that's a fairly well documented point of view, whether it be in crypto or in sort of peak bubble mania of other assets. So yes, we want to see the fear and greed high to entice retail in, but we kind of know that that's got to be a bit of a warning that the water's warming up here, and ultimately we may want to start thinking about positioning ourselves out. Now, you don't want to do it immediately because you've got that huge gain to go, and if you've already been sat in ADA, like some of us were down at 3 cents, you get it to there, it's done a 30x, but if you can just hold on 6 more weeks, it goes from a 30x to 100x. And so that's the difference. Retail think they're getting a great bargain because it goes from $1 to $3, but for us that have sat on our hands. So definitely there. Hey there, Jamie, you're not too late. Given 84 is the chat GPT prediction for the end of year. 84,000. Okay, interesting. Little pullback there. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's so hard to call. This is an interesting week in the space anyway. Ultimately, there's not really that many news events. I know the FOMC minutes came out today, but they're only the minutes. We've got Thanksgiving this week, so there's people traveling through the week, so maybe there's not as much trading happening anyway. So, and there's still plenty of volatility. And look at, we haven't got onto Tau, but look at Tau. Tau's having an interesting one today because it is flying up regardless. Everything else seemed to pull back. We'll get back to Tau because I want to just sort of wrap up BTC. I want to go onto here. I want to go, not there. And it's just throwing it in with some EMAs we're talking about. So now we're on the 4 hour. I mean, you can kind of see at the moment with the EMAs. Since the break, what was that? Monday, midday. So not that long ago. We've lost the 10 and the 20. We've also lost the 50. And we've repeatedly attacked the 50 and aggressively fallen away from it. Now we're falling down. And the reality is, even on the 4 hour, we're looking at 84,000. By the time we get there, probably is going to be that 85, 86. So that's recovering, this vector zone and that vector zone as well. I think that's a position we may end up filling, sort of, I don't know, round about here. After this has moved up, we know we got a block. I'm doing it all in yellow, so it's going to be really difficult for you to see. But we've got a block of liquidation levels here that could be taken out. And so it seems like it's a prime narrative for that to happen. Or should we change the color? I think that's the smart thing to do here. Where's the color of it? I'll have to draw it first. We just see it range like that. Sorry, so much. Green's even worse, isn't it? White. So much yellow. Apologies there. And then when you do throw on other time frames, you can be like, okay, well, is there anything there that ties in with the daily? Not really. I mean, unfortunately, the 50 is far down. That's going to take a while to get here. You know, we could be looking at the next couple of weeks before we get to those kind of levels. But you can still see there's actually a pretty clean vector candle or two from 85 down to 80. So once we suddenly get down to that 84 level, or if we do, we need someone to step in. Otherwise, market makers just going to go, you know what, there's a little bit more to take. What we don't have at the moment is vector candles on the daily above us. However, as I said, I didn't look at the liquidation heat map. So there could be plenty of things for market makers to take a look at up there. But on the 4 hour, I think that paints a relatively, picture of what it is. Let's just remove all drawings. Now, you'd think a lot of altcoins would follow suit, but maybe actually this Bitcoin is now transitioning just to a mini alt season whilst we recover. I mean, Bitcoin dominance is dropping. Bitcoin dominance at the moment is now at 58.5, which is a level not seen for a few weeks now. And given what we have seen, I know it's on the 4 hour. Let's put it on the daily. I mean, we've still got 3 hours left. It's pretty ugly for a daily candle there. But again, you know, whereas the 50 EMA has held us quite nicely, actually, we're now seeing that isn't the case. We've broken through that. We've lost it like we've seen with BTC. And we may fall down as far as 57. I mean, again, I don't suggest we get into 52 anytime soon, but ultimately that's where we hope we're going to get to there and beyond. But we have lost those key levels. And if we were to throw a fib on this is tough because it's been in such a nice uptrend. I'd probably take from here. And this on the daily as well. It's going back to 16 months ago or so. I mean, there's some pretty good reactions in and around there. So that 58 level, which takes out all of this vector zone, could well, be our next place that we find some ability to turn it in and around. But I wouldn't be surprised if we have a look at this 200 EMA on that. Anyway, let's have a look at nothing else there. Let's have a look at Tau. Tau, I mean, well played to Tau in terms of how it's moved in the last couple of days. What I would say is there's definitely some increased volume. We've talked about there's been some positive fundamentals that are being pushed at the moment, and that, you know, ultimately the cult of Tau, and we mentioned that this weekend. They've had it in the teeth recently, and so, you know, there's going to be some sort of exuberance of them coming back in. Now we move away from the fundamentals. We just have a look at where the chart has been. So we've had that move down. We're starting potentially a trend reversal, but as I said, on the daily, we need it to close above 605, and it doesn't have to do it today because we're just on that uptick at the moment, 605. But anything between 605 and 420, we could consider that still potentially getting. Oh no, we can't. It'd have to be 481 because that'd be the low. See, at the moment we've got that. Now I have to change it back to yellow. So we've got that one up there. We've got this one down here, and we want this next one to confirm the uptrend. That's what we want. What we don't want is a rejection and turnaround, and I'm going to be looking for it on the daily, if I'm perfectly honest with you. But again, on the daily, what have we had today? I mean, all of these candles really, but today we've broken through, we've come back down, we've retested on both the 50 EMA and the 0.5 fib. I don't know what this is that I've drawn, because it must have been based on the 4 hour, because those candles, yeah, it was based on the 4 hour. Let me just try and tidy it up a little bit. So yeah, so, you know, we've come back down, we've retested this bottom here, which also happened to line up with the 800 EMA and the 786. So you can kind of see how sometimes fibs and EMAs really do provide a really good pivot point for you to have a look at. The EMAs here are pretty bunched, the 50, the 20 and the 10, which kind of shows we have been ranging with Tau for a while. And Tau didn't get the pump that a lot of altcoins did last week, but perhaps we're now seeing this, you know, so we've had that move down to the 50, back above, and then off the 10 and up we go. The only thing I'd say is the 5, 6, 1, 1, 2, 3, we've hit that, you know, 3 times in the last 24 hours. Really want to be seeing us not only punch above it, but hold it. We hold that, and I think we've got a clear run for 617. We've come back down against it. Maybe we start to test that sort of low 500s. And I even said today, I can't remember who it was in Discord, and we were talking about it. I said, oh, we'll have one more test of the low 500s, and we got it. And then, you know, the move up is happening. So hopefully you can stick the 561 and keep on climbing up there. Some of the other ones that have moved, NIS continue that strong move up that we've seen. Again, you know, I haven't done anything, but you can have a look on the 4 hour, just working in and around it. I keep the cloud on there because, yeah, it does sometimes dip through, but you can see the cloud usually catches it. And this is, you know, higher high and higher low at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised to see if this is going to continue with Bitcoin dominance dropping. And it, you know, it's an AI altcoin as well, to see that sort of let's just say 740, you know, sort of test local all-time high. We did get higher than that in March, and another move back up. Dot's had a strong move. Dot went all the way to 1060 and then actually came back down. But this was the move that Tau didn't have. A lot of altcoins had this. Legacy altcoins had this move up. We are seeing that retracement, which again, we would expect to see some sort of pullback. So, and it is pretty much a 50% pullback. Killed to the 50 EMA cloud again. And up it goes. This one's got a bit of noise to get through right now with the 10 and the 20. And except for Tau, most of our altcoins are actually in the red today. ETH, I'm still not enamored with ETH, but what I will say is it's above the 50 EMA. It's climbing up here. So fair play to it. Casper, though, unfortunately, is the opposite. And we talked about this right at the beginning. I don't know what it is. You know, this one you would have thought in an alt season with the cult following that it has would actually transition into challenging its all-time high, but it just hasn't seemed to have done that. I don't know if it's just forgotten about and people have moved on to other things, memes or what have you. But it lost. I mean, it still hasn't broken this uptrend. You can argue until it breaks 1212, this down one, you could come all the way down here, stick the landing, come back up, and then go higher. So I don't think we can fully write it off, but it just hasn't looked great in that. Solana as well, obviously had an all-time high just over the weekend, but this one's fallen away a little bit, fallen quite strongly. Wouldn't be surprised to maybe see it at 211, and one of the plays I'm thinking with my mistake exit of Tau is to try and get into something else that will pump and then be able to recover any loss. If this doesn't recover itself, just look to try and chase something else. So that's probably where I'm gonna ultimately move towards. Meme coins are just, yeah, some of them are hit and miss. Some of them hit one day, miss the next. That's just a story of memes. Tau News pumping quite nicely, probably because one person's bought it. You know my view on that. Someone asked me to have a look at Memes AI. And so I actually had a look at it before we went live. And to be honest with you, I mean, this is the trend line for the last few weeks. And this stuff that I drew last week, and so I asked again, we've come back down. So when did they ask? It would have been before here. So 20 would have been the 19th, wouldn't it? So we've had this break. It's come back down, hit this trend line back up, bounce off this trend line again. So if it can keep this trend line, then yeah, okay, we've still got the fibs to get through. And I know this looks a little bit different. It's just because it's on Deck Screener. So 4.5 and then 5.5 and then effectively 6.5. But as long as we keep this trend line, I think there's potential for this to move. It's in a falling channel, but I don't think that's too bad. I mean, if you want to take it on lower time frames, you could argue that there's definitely a squeeze happening there. Hopefully it's going to break through and climb out. I'm not in memes, am I? So, you know, it's not really one for me, but that's what I'm seeing. The other thing, just, I know I did a poll, so let's just end the poll. I think what we got full on pullback around about 30% and short squeeze 70%. And the short squeeze, I think, is an interesting one because every man and his dog was calling for 100K. And the sell wall between 100,000 and 102,000 was extreme. And so to actually move it just before and start a pullback may have caught a lot of people out. Might have also caught a lot of people who were in longs waiting for the 100K before taking some profit. So the difference for me, whether it's going to be a full-on pullback or a short squeeze, is just a time period in which it takes. So full-on pullback, we fall down to whatever level, 86,000. We stay here for a week, two, maybe a little bit longer, build some support, and then off we go. Fine, that's absolutely fine. Even God forbid we get down to 80,000, as long as we get that sustained period of support, sort of just ranging ability, fine. Full-on pullback, we need it. It's healthy. Short squeeze, price is coming down quickly. Everyone's then going to jump into the shorts, and then it moves the other way just as fast. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there, but I think sentiment, the more optimistic people will probably have gone for the short squeeze, thinking we're going to recover the all-time high. I think we break 100K before Christmas. I know that feels like 6 weeks off, but that is where I think 5 weeks off, should I say. 4 weeks tomorrow. God, it's going quick. So that's what it is. Jeff says, are you switching validators from our Avengers? I'm not. I mean, I could, because it's quick too, but I don't really track my stake and rewards in terms of how much I'm getting compared to others. And I don't know if there's any FUD, particularly around our Ventures. Maybe I'll just have a look and see if there is. But for now, it's fine. And even if there was FUD, it's so quick to unstake. I could act fairly quickly, and I don't even know who to put it in. I don't even know where they rank in terms of reward allocation. So yeah, that's where we are with that one. I said I'd talk about MicroStrategy just a little bit there because it's having a bit of a pullback like Bitcoin is. There's a link in Discord, I think. Okay, I'll check that one out. Thanks, Jeff. And I've heard people saying that MicroStrategy is done, as in this move up for MicroStrategy is it. This pullback is going to be a fairly aggressive correction. And these are crypto, Bitcoin people saying that. And I kind of just think, well, wait a second. MicroStrategy is the Bitcoin chart. So if that's what you're telling me, you can't be telling me in one sentence that Bitcoin's going to 120,000, but MicroStrategy's having a pullback. And I think we just got to remember, again, it was talked about quite a lot at the cuddle, so I'm sure people will come out. For anyone that is wanting, some exposure to Bitcoin, but perhaps not handling the Bitcoin themselves, MicroStrategy is one of the plays. And yeah, okay, it might slightly deviate in terms of how the bars all line up, etc. I get it. However, generally, when you zoom out on this thing, it is the Bitcoin chart. It is now because MicroStrategy is Bitcoin, despite what it may do as a company, its vast holdings, almost 400,000 BTC, its share price is going to move how Bitcoin's share price does. So we can see, the early 2021, 2022, but as they acquired more and more Bitcoin, it started to look more and more like the BTC chart. Now I finally pulled on my big boy pants and actually set up a Hargreaves Lansdown SIPs, and I'm in the process of transferring my pensions. I've been saying that I was going to do this for well over a year, and I haven't. And so I don't know what I'm going to put it in yet, but I would like to think that there was some allocation that will go into this. So hell, let's just nuke it. Let's just utterly nuke it so I can get in a better price. Jamie's put, more companies are taking on Bitcoin treasury strategy all the time. MicroStrategy started the trend. I completely agree with that. I was almost going to talk, thank you, Jamie, about this, but I decided it wasn't a big enough news article. But I did put it to one side. Rumble are a streaming platform. They've started to do it. Okay, they're only doing 20 million. So, but they've sort of come out and been like, we like of what MicroStrategy is doing. We understand it. And Rumble's like the anti-woke YouTube. That's how they brand themselves. I'm not necessarily saying that YouTube is woke, but they're a bunch of misfits. Nothing better to say, I suppose. And so they're going down this. And I think at the moment, it's still probably seen as a bit of a risky strategy or a rebellious kind of strategy for people to do this. But we know America is keen for this. And again, another thing that was spoken about quite extensively over the weekend was the Loomis Act and America's plan to buy 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years, 200,000 Bitcoin a year, and then not to sell it for 20 years and to hold that as a Bitcoin reserve. And I think, if that gets approved and if that gets acted on, that is going to give top cover and legitimacy to every other sovereign nation and every other major company that ever had any doubts about it. And suddenly we're on for a gold rush, because there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin. I mean, hell, there's only 450 Bitcoin mined every day. And if that's a 5-year period, that's going to half at some stage through it. And it's not just America that's going after it. It's going to be everybody. And so, yeah, it makes sense that some of these companies are actually starting to see the benefit of what MicroStrategy are doing. So, yeah, thank you, Jamie. If nothing other than to give me a nice little segue into talking about a news article I just decided wasn't worthy enough. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know, what levels. I drew this fib level, which is on the weekly chart here. And okay, there's some at like just below 300. I think with MicroStrategy, it's have a look at where Bitcoin goes. If Bitcoin's dropping, oh yeah, I knew what you meant. Thank you. If Bitcoin's dropping, I think this one could go. If I decide to go, and because I'm in the process of transferring my pensions, it's 2 to 4 weeks. So I ain't doing this anytime this side of Christmas. But I ain't going to be trying to get in the best price I can. Obviously, it's a SIP, so I'm going to be locked into it. Yes, I can change it, but it's not like I'm going to have to draw this money out. And I hear about all of you folk that, did this last year or 2 years ago. And I just think, man, if only I had actually bothered to do it. Every cuddle, someone reminds me to do it, and I just haven't. So today's the day, and in 12 months' time, hopefully I'm going to be talking about how good an entry 320 was, 300, whatever we get to. I think that's probably going to be about it. I know it's only just been over an hour, but I feel that's kind of long enough. As I mentioned on Thursday, obviously got the trading pub. It's a 200,000 to 5 million meme coin challenge. So going through what those memes are going to be and how those rules are. I'm sure Simon will run through it all with everyone there. As I understand it, he was going to buy them ahead of Thursday. So there's no one front running him or anything like that. And I don't think he's going to be saying what they are until then. But for those of you that are into meme coins, or at least want to try and be a little bit degen like I've been for the last few months and take advantage of some meme coins, there's obviously an opportunity to learn a bit more about that on Thursday. I've got a feeling it's probably going to be quite a long one. Jamie's put entries of 332 and 244 on MicroStrategy. 244, decent one there. Absolutely. So yeah, well played on those. I'm going to try and emulate. I mean, hey, I'm only going to get whatever the market gives me. So I'm in that quandary of, do I want Bitcoin to just keep going up and have to get in late on MicroStrategy, or do I look at something else? But anyway, we'll wait to see what the pension pot arrives. So that one's on Thursday. If anyone else has got anything they want to ask me between now and then, or between the next call next week, feel free to drop me a DM or tag me, as I always suggest. They're entry orders. Okay, I got you, Jamie. No problem there. Well, I'll be looking at similar ones. Or maybe I'll have a chat with you offline just about it, and we can have a conversation, not involving everybody else. I'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone. I know it's only been a couple of days since some of you have heard me speak. I'm not sure when my talk is going to come out. Mine was kind of on me changing my strategy, changing what I hold in, people not believing in tech alts. So if you didn't go to the cuddle, I was just like, retail don't care about tech. They're going to look for something else. And so I've kind of rejigged my portfolio. It's very Tau heavy. Yes, near render. So AI and then memes. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. I will see you all on Thursday. And if not, I'll see you all Tuesday night. Have a good one. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers now.